Hello, welcome back to the JavaScript series. In this video, we're going to discuss switch statements in JavaScript. Switch statements are very useful decision-making constructs in JavaScript, and they basically do the same thing or close to the same thing as the if-else statement. If you're a beginner and you already know how to use the if-else statement, you might be wondering why you would need this one. And I guarantee you, by the end of this video, you will see the difference between the switch statements and the if-else statements, and in which cases you might need to use one over the other. So switch statements basically evaluate an expression and attempt to match the expression's value to some case label. So we'll look at the different ways to use this, and also we'll look at the structure of the switch statements in JavaScript. Now let's take a look at the structure of a switch statement. Now I already have some code written on my screen here, and the reason why I did this is to save time, because I really don't need to type all of this. I could just explain what each line of code is doing here. All right, so the structure is basically comprised of the switch keyword followed by the expression that we want to look out for, or that we want to match against each of these cases here, right? So what happens here is that JavaScript takes this expression, which is something we probably defined here. Let's say we can say the expression is something like this. Let's say let some expression equal to, let's say, 5 or 4. My hand just got to the 4 first. Anyways, so what happens here is that JavaScript basically takes this value of 4 here and checks if the value in front of this case here is equal to 4. So we can just say case 4 here. Let me put 4 there. Now, if this is true, then JavaScript will run the code between the case and the break keyword here, right? So the reason why we need the break keyword is to stop JavaScript from continuing to compare the value of these cases after finding a match. So we also have the default keyword here. The default keyword is like the else keyword in if else block, right? So if there is no case or there is no value that matches the expression, then the default keyword will run by default. The code below the default keyword run by default. All right, now let's take a look at some practical use cases of the switch statements in JavaScript. I wrote some code down here to save time, but I'll be explaining what each line of code is doing. So I created this variable let the day variable and assigned it a value 3, and then another variable day name, which has no value yet, because what I plan on doing to this variable is assign it a value once a case matches our our variable day here in the switch statement. So we passed in the switch statement day, the day variable here, which is what JavaScript is going to use to compare with each of these cases here, these values in front of the case here. So on line 5, JavaScript basically checks if the case where the value is equal to 1 matches the day variable here. So obviously day is equal to 3 is not equal to 1, so JavaScript will ignore this line and it will not run this code. Then it will move to the next one, which is 2 is not equal to 3, and then the third one here. So this third one here is where the value of this case here, which is 3, is the same as this one here. So the switch statement searches for matches and not it doesn't compare them. It just finds which one is the same as the value in front of the case. So On line 11 here, obviously the case, in this case, 3 is equal to 3, which is the day variable we created here. So day name now would be assigned a value of Wednesday. And then after that, the code will break. Now, what this break is doing is jumping over the rest of these cases here. So there's no more comparing the value in front of the case on each line. So JavaScript will stop executing this code here right after the break keyword. All right. So once that is done, let me just remove that and let me save and refresh my browser. Now we are console logging the day name here. Now we can see that the day name obviously has a value of Wednesday, which is actually true because already at this point here we've assigned it the value of Wednesday once the case here matches the day variable we passed into our switch statement. When we change this value to 30, for instance, now what happens here is that JavaScript goes on each line looking for the value 30, which is obviously not here. So after searching in each case, it will basically run this default keyword. This default keyword only runs when there is no match. So, and at this point, JavaScript will basically assign the day name an invalid string here. So when we save and refresh, now we can see that the value here is invalid. All right. There's a quick trick I want to show you. You can also combine cases together. Let me just move this second case here, this case 2, and then let me save and refresh. So if I change this value to 1, for instance, now, and refresh my browser, we can see that the value here is Monday. And if I change this one to 2, the value will still be Monday. So what is happening here is that, let me delete that and refresh. You can see that the value is still Monday. Now what is happening here is that JavaScript is basically saying if the case is 1 or 2, then assign the value or the Monday string to the variable day name. All right, one thing I would quickly like to point out here is that the switch statement does strict comparison, which means that if this 3 here was a string and I refresh my browser, then all of these cases will be ignored and the default case will run. So you cannot compare a variable of a different data type to, you know, the values of the cases here. So that doesn't work. And once a case is found, you can also, you know, run multiple lines of code here. So you can see console.log. Let's see, here is a code. Let me just put it like this. Save and refresh. Now you can see that here is a code that is being logged in the console. All right. So far we've seen how the switch statement is structured. We've taken a look at some examples and how to use the switch statements. But what I would like to understand is the difference between the switch statement and the if-else statement, given that both of them are used to control the flow of execution of our code. Now, what happens here is that the switch statement cannot have like a conditional operation within its parentheses. So it only compares a single value to many cases. So you cannot have something like day is less than 3 or 2, for instance, and then refresh. You can see that invalid is being logged no matter what. If we change it to superior, which is actually true, so 3 is superior to 2, and you refresh your browser, let me delete and refresh, you can still see that invalid is being logged, which is the default case that we have here. So which is saying that none of this is working, so default will run by default if any of this doesn't match. Whereas in the case of the if else statement, we can have this here, we can use it for conditional comparison, and also sometimes directly log in something in the browser. Let's say, okay, since this 20 here, we can have a single value here. So if 20, obviously 20 is a truthy value, so this will always be true, and the first line of code here will run. When we refresh, now you can see that mark age is less than 10. All right, that's it for switch statements in JavaScript and everything you need to know about them. And if you found this video useful, please like and comment in the comment section below. And also, please don't forget to share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.